Night has a way of cloaking our deepest secrets. In Fairmont Heights, everything looks perfect on the surface. The town sits nestled in the folds of a sleepy valley, where rows of houses line streets that gleam with pride. Fresh-cut grass, clipped rose bushes, and porches with wind chimes playing lullabies to the evening wind. It's the kind of town where neighbors wave, kids ride bikes until sunset, and nothing ever really happens. The screen opens to an aerial shot at dusk. The sun has just slipped below the horizon, bleeding orange and purple hues across the sky. Below, Maple Drive lies still. Its street lamps flicker, one by one, casting long shadows over sidewalks. A low fog begins to roll in like an unwelcome whisper. A dog barks somewhere in the distance, sharp, persistent. And then, laughter. A child's gleeful giggle breaks the stillness, only to be swallowed quickly by the growing hush. This is the picture of suburban peace, or so it seems. Then a voice slices through the quiet, calm, measured, ominous. We like to think we know the people closest to us, that the faces across our dinner tables are exactly who they say they are. But what if every smile, every warm goodnight kiss hides a forbidden truth? The camera slowly pans to a figure standing alone under a street lamp at the far end of the block. John Smith, 38, handsome in that quiet, trustworthy way, broad-shouldered, collared shirt tucked neatly, wedding band reflecting amber light from above. From a distance, he looks like any other suburban dad winding down his day. But there's something off. His hands are in his pockets, his shoulders hunched, not from the cold, but from something heavier, something deeper, a weight you can't see but feel. His eyes scan the empty street, lingering too long on each quiet house as if he's listening for something, or someone. Cut to inside the Smith home. The atmosphere is soft, golden lighting, floral wallpaper, the slow hum of a dishwasher in the background. Emily Smith, 35, kind-eyed and gentle, tucks their 7-year-old son into bed. She hums an old lullaby, something her own mother used to sing, and brushes the hair from the boy's forehead. Down the hall, John's silhouette appears in the mirror at the end of the corridor. It's a flash, almost imperceptible. His eyes are locked on the reflection of his family. The woman and child he loves, or wants to love, the way he's supposed to, but something's not right. His lips are pressed into a tight line. His jaw clenches for just a second. His hand, resting on the doorframe, trembles ever so slightly. 5 seconds later, the mask is back on. He enters the room with a smile, kisses Emily on the forehead, and tells his son, "Sweet dreams, buddy." His voice is calm, normal, but the subtle shake in his hand, the way his fingers twitch as they brush against Emily's, tells another story. In towns like Fairmont Heights, appearances matter. Everyone plays their part in the great suburban performance. But what happens when someone goes off script? The camera zooms in on John's phone lying on the kitchen counter. A single notification buzzes the screen. No name, just a preview. "Can't wait to see you, same place?" He hesitates, then picks it up and walks toward the patio. Cut to a darkened backyard. The moonlight washes the fence in silver. John whispers into the phone. His voice is low, hurried. John on phone. "I told you not tonight." She's getting suspicious. A male voice responds, familiar, casual, but laced with urgency. Voice on phone. "You said that last week. It's always not tonight. What are we even doing?" Laughter breaks the tension briefly, but it dies quickly. A beat of silence, then one word. Voice. Tomorrow, the call ends. John stares into the dark, the screen of his phone now black, reflected faintly on its surface, his own face, hollowed by the weight of double lives. Back inside, Emily locks the front door. The deadbolt clicks with a clean, cold finality. What if the affair you feared wasn't with another woman, but with your husband's best friend? As the music begins to swell, the scene shifts into a montage. John laughing with Michael, his longtime best friend during a backyard barbecue 6 months earlier. Michael lifting John's son into the air while Emily claps. John and Michael at a local bar, shoulders brushing, sharing a secretive grin. Emily watching from the distance, her expression unreadable. Then, an overhead shot of the Smiths' bedroom. A slow pan to the clock on the wall. 11:39 p.m. John lies awake, eyes wide open. Emily sleeps beside him. Cut to Michael alone in his apartment staring at a photo of the three of them, John, Emily, and himself. He slowly flips it over. On the back, a handwritten note. One day, it'll just be us. Tonight, the facade will crack. Tonight, a friendship more intimate than anyone could imagine will be exposed, and a life will be lost. The final sequence: a knife placed carefully in a drawer, a text message reading, "Come by at midnight, she's asleep." A pair of headlights turning off a block away, a door creaking open. How far would you go to protect a secret? Emily's bright eyes sparkling with warmth as she laughs softly at the family dinner table. The aroma of home-cooked food fills the room. The children chatter happily, and the clinking of cutlery blends with the soft hum of conversation. But across the table, John's gaze is restless. His eyes flicker uneasily toward Mark, who sits confidently at the head of the table, telling a joke that draws laughter from the others. Yet for John, the smile freezes in place. Just outside the window, thunder rumbles low and distant. Lightning flashes momentarily illuminating the raindrops racing down the glass. The storm outside is no coincidence. It mirrors the one gathering quietly, but relentlessly within the walls of their seemingly perfect lives. We rewind 6 months. Back then, John is sharply dressed in crisp, well-pressed shirts, his tie always perfectly knotted. Mark, in contrast, favors casual tees and leather jackets. The camera cuts quickly between scenes as if flipping through a photo album. Late nights spent drinking at a dimly lit local bar, where laughter and smoke swirl together, mingling with the scent of spilled beer and rain outside. Two men leaning close, sharing cigarettes beneath flickering streetlights, their fingers brushing briefly in a moment, charged with silent understanding. Emily believes they are just buddies, blowing off steam. The kind of friendship forged through years of shared memories. But the camera lingers on a glance exchanged between John and Mark. A knowing look that speaks volumes. Unspoken words hanging heavily in the air. Cut to an interview snippet. A voice disguised the face hidden in shadow. A man's voice, low and cautious. He says they were inseparable, but sometimes too close. His words carry an ominous weight. The scene shifts to security camera footage, grainy and stark. The two men disappear into a rental car late at night, only to return in the early morning hours, moving silently, cloaked in the darkness. The camera follows them as they slip quietly inside the Smith driveway. Emily lies half asleep in bed, hearing a faint noise. She cracks an eye open, thinking John forgot to turn off the porch light. The voiceover continues. In a house built on trust, a hidden current was running deep beneath the surface. And when passion turns to jealousy, it can spark a storm far more dangerous than rain. The camera moves slowly, capturing a single strained note from a piano echoing in an empty room. The shot tightens on a framed wedding photograph of John and Emily. The image is shot from behind so their faces remain unseen. Their silhouettes cast in shadow as if the light itself is reluctant to reveal too much. A match is struck. The small flame flickers to life, casting dancing shadows on the wall. The silhouette of John looms large and indistinct, a man caught between the flickering light and the encroaching darkness. The atmosphere thickens, the silence almost suffocating, before the narrator's voice breaks through. Tonight you will see how love became betrayal, how loyalty was shattered, and how, in the end, only one truth survived. John and Emily Smith were the quintessential couple of Fairmont Heights, a suburban neighborhood where white picket fences and freshly mowed lawns created an illusion of perfection. They had been married for 10 years, and to their friends and neighbors, they were the definition of success and happiness. Emily's warm laugh was a familiar soundtrack at every holiday potluck and neighborhood gathering, brightening rooms with effortless joy. John, with his easy charm and professional demeanor, had built a small but thriving real estate firm that drew clients from across the county. His friendly smile and sharp negotiation skills made him a trusted figure in the community. Their home was filled with the trappings of a fulfilled family life. A handsome son named Liam, whose trophies from countless soccer matches were proudly displayed in the garage. Family photos lined the walls, moments of laughter frozen in time. To outsiders, their life was the perfect suburban dream. But as with all things that appear flawless on the surface, there were shadows lurking just beneath a calm exterior. John's best friend, Mark Monroe, seemed to fit perfectly into the fabric of their lives. Tall, with an easygoing manner and a generosity that was well known in Fairmont Heights, Mark was more than just a friend. He was family. Every Thanksgiving, Mark would carve the turkey with practiced skill, the centerpiece of their festive dinners. On Liam's birthdays, he was the one with the most extravagant gifts, never missing a chance to bring a smile to the boy's face. Emily often joked that Mark was their third wheel, but it was a phrase delivered with affection, never suspicion. She could not have guessed just how true those words would become. Interviews with neighbors paint a vivid picture of the trio's life together. John was always so polite and kind, says Mrs. Harris, an elderly woman who lives 2 houses down. He was the kind of man you could trust, the one who always held the door open or stopped to chat about the weather. Another neighbor, Mr. Lopez, recalls Mark as like a brother to John, always there, always reliable. These testimonials reinforce the idyllic image of the Smith household, one built on mutual respect and friendship. As the camera shifts, we see a montage of cherished moments captured on photo albums. Mark tossing a baseball to Liam in the backyard, the boy's face lit up with pure joy. Emily, John, and Mark sharing glasses of wine around a beach bonfire, their laughter ringing out over the crackling flames. These snapshots evoke warmth and closeness, painting a picture of a tightly knit family. Yet in these images, subtle details hint at something more complex. John's gaze often lingers on Mark a bit too long, a silent communication that goes unnoticed by the casual observer. His smile, though genuine, carries a shadow of conflict, as if he is wrestling with emotions he can neither fully express nor escape. Beneath every group photo lies an untold story. Behind those perfect smiles, John Smith carried a secret, a truth more guarded than any confidential listing agreement he'd ever signed. A truth that threatened to unravel everything he had built. The camera then moves to Mark's apartment, a stark contrast to the warm and bustling home of the Smith family. The space is minimalist and carefully curated, with only a few personal touches. On the coffee table sits a collection of framed photos, images of Mark and John together, their friendship captured in moments both tender and casual. The photos show them at baseball games, weekend barbecues, and late-night conversations. A single, empty wine glass stands next to a laptop, the screen glowing softly in the dim room. An unopened email is visible on the display, the subject line reading, "Why can't we tell her?" The words hang in the air, heavy with unspoken tension. Mark's fingers hover hesitantly over the keyboard, as if grappling with whether to send the message or delete it forever. The room is silent except for the faint hum of the city beyond the window, a reminder that outside this quiet apartment, lives are moving forward, oblivious to the turmoil brewing in the shadows. In the background, a soft instrumental melody plays, underscoring the fragile veneer of their world. The music swells gently as the camera pulls back, leaving viewers with the uneasy feeling that beneath the facade of friendship and family lies a secret storm waiting to break. This was not just a story of suburban happiness, but one of hidden desires, unspoken fears, and the complex bonds that bind us, even when those bonds threaten to tear everything apart. It began innocently enough, just late-night brainstorming sessions at Mark's home office, a quiet refuge from the buzz of their everyday lives. John would arrive, often carrying the weight of a looming property pitch heavy on his mind. The polished wood desk was scattered with blueprints and brochures, the soft glow of a desk lamp casting long shadows that danced in the dim room. To take the edge off, John would pour himself a glass of aged scotch, the amber liquid catching the low light as it settled in the crystal tumbler. Mark listened patiently, his casual demeanor offering a stark contrast to John's taut nerves. The conversation started strictly business. Strategies, potential clients, market trends. But as the hours slipped by and the city's streets outside darkened, the atmosphere subtly shifted. The business talk thinned out, replaced by laughter and shared memories. The tension between them was electric, barely concealed beneath casual touches. A reassuring hand on the shoulder, fingers brushing over a stack of papers, eyes locking just a moment too long. One evening, the camera captures Mark circling back to John's home. It's late, the kind of late where the world outside is muffled, and even the street lamps seemed to lean in closer, watching silently. Mark knocks softly on the door. John opens it, a flicker of surprise on his face before the familiar warmth returns. Mark steps inside, closing the door gently behind him. They linger in the hallway, just standing close enough for the warmth of their bodies to mingle in the cool air. Mark's hand finds its way to John's forearm. Firm, tentative, electric. The camera zooms in on their eyes, which flicker with a mix of tension and longing, a secret language only they understand. On the console table near the doorway, a phone vibrates quietly, catching John's attention. A message preview flashes. "Can't wait to see you." There's a brief flicker of hesitation, a silent alarm in the room, before John swiftly tucks the phone into his jacket pocket, forcing a smile. At that moment, Emily steps into the frame, her smile radiant and unaware. John kisses her cheek softly, the practiced ease of a man hiding more than just his phone. Narrator's voice cuts in. Fear of judgment kept them hidden. Each stolen moment was a heartbeat away from discovery. That fear lingers like a shadow over every step they take together. The scene shifts seamlessly to a dim, shadowy bar corner. The kind of place that feels like it exists in its own bubble, separate from the world's watchful eyes. The air hums with quiet conversations and the clink of half-empty bottles resting on worn wooden tables. Neon signs flicker in muted reds and blues, casting kaleidoscopic hues over the faces gathered there. John and Mark sit close, their shoulders almost touching, the space between them charged with unspoken words. John reaches out instinctively to brush a drop of scotch from Mark's lip, a gesture so intimate it feels like a whispered confession. Mark's gaze flickers up to meet John's, shimmering with a promise neither dares voice aloud. Their laughter mingles softly, fragile and fleeting, while the world around them blurs into background noise. The neon glow splashes across their features, painting their secret in shades of ruby and sapphire. Meet me tonight, 11 p.m. Promise. Just you and me. The tension tightens as night deepens. Under the cloak of darkness, the two slip quietly into Mark's car, the engine's purr barely disturbing the silence of the sleeping neighborhood. The headlights cut through the fog, a small beacon for two men chasing something neither fully understands, but both desperately need. Emily's voice drifts in, soft but edged with something deeper. I always thought they were just friends. Her face reflects a blend of fondness and doubt, the warmth fading into something colder, harder. But sometimes friendship can be more. The night outside was merciless. Rain hammered against the window panes with a relentless fury, as if nature itself echoed the turmoil inside the Smith household. Emily Smith paced the narrow hallway outside John's study, her footsteps quick and uneven on the hardwood floor. Moments ago, a flicker of suspicion had driven her curiosity. She had found John's phone, face down on the console table, untouched and vulnerable. A single notification glowed faintly on the lock screen, bright against the darkness. Meet me at midnight. Can't wait. Her heart hammered violently in her chest. The air seemed to thicken, pressing against her lungs as she reached out and tapped the power button. The screen lit up, revealing a cascade of messages that shattered the fragile illusion of trust she had held onto for years. The texts were unambiguous. Loving pet names, secret rendezvous, confessions dripping with urgency and desperation. I miss you already. I wish you were here next to me. I don't think I can keep lying. Each word struck her like a blow. The warmth of their family life began to fracture in her mind's eye. Memories of past evenings replayed with cruel clarity. The laughter around the dinner table punctuated by John's distracted glances at his phone. The scent of whiskey and cigarettes lingering on his jacket after supposedly working late. The hushed phone calls whispered into the night, coming from the garage where no one was meant to hear. A cold wave of betrayal washed over Emily, stealing her breath and rooting her in place. She turned and retreated silently to the living room, clutching the phone so tightly her knuckles whitened. The camera circled her slowly, capturing the subtle tremor in her lower lip, the glint of tears threatening to spill free. A single tear broke free, falling and splattering onto the glossy cover of a coffee table magazine, an image of perfect suburban bliss now forever stained. Narrator. When the world you know fractures, Every familiar face becomes a stranger. Summoning a strength she didn't know she possessed, Emily squared her shoulders and moved back to confront the source of her pain. The study door loomed before her, closed and foreboding. She hesitated only for a heartbeat before swinging it open. Inside, John looked up, startled. His shirt collar was undone, his tie loose and hanging crookedly. The fatigue and distraction in his eyes deepened the weight of his guilt. Without a word, Emily slammed the phone down onto his desk, the screen glowing brightly, accusingly. Emily, voice shaking. "Explain this." John's face crumpled. His voice was low, pleading. "Emily, please, it's not what you think." But the mask of denial fell away quickly. What followed was a slow, halting confession. Whispered admissions of a love he had hidden away. For Mark, his best friend. Apologies tangled with fear, the dread of losing the family they'd built. Emily's eyes widened with horror as the truth spilled out, drowning the last vestiges of hope. "Emily, you betrayed me. Us. Him." Her voice cracked as she nodded toward the hallway where their young son Liam slept quietly, oblivious to the storm breaking around him. The camera cut to Liam's bedroom door. A single crack of soft light slipped from beneath it, and through the gap his small silhouette was visible. Innocent, unknowing. The sight deepened the tragedy of fractured trust, the innocence so starkly contrasted with the betrayal nearby. In the days that followed, tension settled like a thick fog over every corner of the Smith home. Emily drifted through her daily routines like a ghost. Mail piled unopened on the kitchen counter, forgotten lunches left unmade for Liam. John hovered close, offering apologies that sounded hollow and rehearsed. The fragile fabric of their family stretched thinner with each passing hour. Flashbacks invaded Emily's mind at unexpected moments. Laughter from a beach bonfire with Mark and John, stolen kisses behind the garage door, whispered phone calls beneath the branches of a sprawling oak tree. Each memory played against a soundtrack of low, mournful strings, amplifying the silent ache that grew inside her. Narrator, VO. Trust, once broken, leaves a wound that bleeds in silence. One late night, when the house was steeped in shadows and silence, Emily was jolted awake by muffled voices drifting upward from downstairs. Her heart clenched. She crept carefully to the top of the staircase, the wooden steps cold beneath her feet. Peering through the cracked hallway door, she caught sight of John and Mark locked in a fierce argument. Shadows collided violently on the walls as fists nearly swung. The tension was more than anger. It was desperation. Fear etched deeply in Mark's tone. Mark hissed, "I can't stay hidden forever." John's voice was low but burning with fury. "John, you'll ruin everything." The air thickened with unspoken threats. Emily gasped involuntarily. Both men whipped their heads toward the door, eyes wild and searching. The moment stretched unbearably, charged with danger. Suddenly, the fragile piece shattered. Plates crashed to the floor. A lamp exploded in a shower of glass and sparks. Panic surged through Emily's veins, and she fled back to the safety of her bedroom. Her heart pounded so fiercely, she was certain the walls themselves must hear. Alone in the dark, Emily realized the storm was far from over. The secret she had uncovered was only the beginning of a fracture that threatened to consume everything she held dear. Night falls heavy and humid, thick with the scent of rain-soaked earth. Mark arrives at the Smith house, soaked to the bone from a sudden downpour. His soaked jacket clings to him, droplets sliding off his collar as he steps cautiously onto the cracked concrete porch. The only light comes from a flickering porch bulb swaying in the heavy breeze, its buzzing hum blending with distant thunder. Mark's phone vibrates with John's terse text. "Now! Basement! Alone!" His heart hammers in his chest as he unlocks the weather-beaten front door and descends the narrow staircase to the basement below. The door creaks ominously behind him, shutting with a dull thud. The dim overhead bulb flickers erratically, casting ghostly shadows that dance across shelves cluttered with forgotten holiday decorations, dusty paint cans, and tangled extension cords. At the far end, John stands rigid, arms folded tightly across his chest, his face a volatile mix of desperation and fury. The room smells damp, tinged with something metallic and sharp. Mark, voice trembling, trying to steady himself. "You wanted to talk?" John, cold, controlled. "It's over, Mark. You promised you'd stop." Thunder rumbles through the house, shaking the old windows as Mark takes a hesitant step forward. Their breaths form misty clouds in the cold, stale air. John's eyes glint with a dangerous resolve. He abruptly throws a photograph onto the scratched workbench, a screenshot of Mark's phone, showing intercepted messages between Mark and Emily. The camera zooms on Mark's shaking hands as he picks up the photo, his face paling. Mark, voice breaking, pleading, "We can figure this out. You love me." John, snapping bitter, "No, you lied." Without warning, John's hand disappears beneath the workbench. A cold steel glints under the flickering light. Mark's eyes widen in terror as he stumbles backward, knocking over a plastic bucket. Water spills, sloshing noisily across the concrete floor, mixing with scattered debris. Time seems to slow. John's violent lunge in slow motion. The sudden, brutal first strike, crashing down on Mark's shoulder. Mark gasps, staggering, his face contorted in shock and pain. The second strike follows mercilessly. Mark's hand scrabbles on the wet floor, leaving streaks of blood as the metal meets flesh. In that moment, love turned lethal. Mark's scream pierces the silence, a long, tortured wail reverberating off cold cinder-block walls. His body crumples, collapsing face first into a spreading puddle of water and blood. John stands over him, chest rising and falling in ragged breaths. His eyes are vacant, empty pools reflecting the flickering light. Without a backward glance, John drops the weapon, turns, and flees up the stairs. Suddenly, the basement phone rings upstairs. Emily's voice frantic, breathless. "John, John, are you there? John!" No answer. Panic surges through her as she grabs her keys and rushes down the stairs. Her flashlight beam pierces the darkness, revealing the horrific scene. Mark's body lies twisted and broken. The camera holds on his face, half-open eyes glazed in shock and betrayal. Emily staggers back, horror-stricken, her hand trembling as she presses the emergency button on her phone. Her sobs echo through the house, mingling with a distant wail of sirens approaching. Wet, bloody footprints lead sharply up the stairs, the grim trail left by John. Cut to the police arriving. Red and blue lights flash through the basement window slats. Officers establish a perimeter, yellow tape snapping into place. Forensic photographers enter, meticulously photographing the scene, outlining the body in chalk. Every blood drop, every smear is cataloged. Detective Carter kneels beside Mark's body, flipping open his notebook. Detective Carter, victim Mark Monroe, cause multiple blunt force traumas to upper torso. Time of death, approximately 11:47 p.m. clock, 11:52 p.m. A single choice shattered 3 lives in under 5 minutes. Hours later, John is found wandering 2 blocks away, his clothes stained with blood, his hands trembling uncontrollably. He offers no resistance as officers cuff him. His once warm, familiar eyes now hollow and haunted, reflecting the irreversible damage of that fatal night. Detective Carter steps up the marble stairs of the courthouse, the weight of the case folder in his hand matching the gravity of the moment. Reporters cluster around him like hawks, cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward as he pauses beneath the grand portico. "Detective Carter, can you confirm the charges against John Smith?" Detective Carter, steady. He stands charged with second-degree murder. The evidence will speak for itself. He turns and shoulders through the crowd. Inside, the hushed corridors swell with anticipation. Jurors file into seats, photographers are ushered away, and the judge's gavel sits at the ready. The prosecution rises, opening with a clinical precision that contrasts sharply with the raw emotion simmering beneath. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case is built on 3 unassailable pillars of proof. A series of exhibits appear on screen in rapid succession. Text logs meticulously time-stamped at 11:40 p.m. place John Smith at the Smith home basement, where only he and the victim, Mark Monroe, should have been that night. The jurors lean forward as detective testimony explains how every ping, every message was cataloged from phone towers to pinpoint his exact location. Forensic analysis reveals John's DNA on blood spatter patterns found on the cinderblock walls. Microscopic droplets match his genetic profile with near-perfect accuracy. The crime scene photographer testifies how each spatter was measured, each droplet mapped, an unmistakable fingerprint of guilt. Emily Smith's testimony recounts the discovery of incriminating texts in the ensuing confrontation. Her voice trembles as she reads message after message, pet names, secret rendezvous, pleas for forgiveness. The courtroom listens in silence, broken only by the soft sobbing of Mark's mother in the gallery. As Emily steps down, her resolve shines through. She met truth with courage, an act more powerful than any forensic report. Across the aisle, John's hands grip the defense table, knuckles white. The defense rises, determined to reframe the narrative. Defense counsel. This was not premeditated murder. This was a crime of passion, an impulsive act born from unbearable emotional distress. They call their psychologist, Dr. Carter Lewis, to the stand. He speaks in hushed tones about betrayal, shame, and internalized homophobia. In his analysis, John was pushed beyond breaking point, an ordinary man imploding under the weight of a secret he believed would destroy him. Carter Lewis. His psychological profile shows extreme stress responses. This was a momentary lapse in judgment, not a cold, calculated act. The prosecution seizes the moment to undercut that theory. They replay surveillance footage of John wandering the neighborhood 2 blocks away after the murder. The defense argues flight is flight, just a man, aimless and panicked. The prosecution counters that flight equals consciousness of guilt. Next, a surprise witness, John's co-worker Ellen Wright, takes the stand. She recounts a private conversation in the break room. John, voice hushed and eyes haunted, confessed he loved Mark too much to live with a secret. The courtroom murmurs, even the judge raises his eyebrows. As closing arguments begin, tension crackles like electricity. Prosecutor, rising voice, gentlemen of the jury, you have the facts, the texts, the DNA, the witness testimony. Yet there's something even more compelling. What happens when you betray those you love? What price do you pay when the only way to bury a secret is with violence? The words echo in the silent room. John sits motionless. Emily clasps her hands, her knuckles white again, but this time from resolve rather than shock. Defense counsel pleading, we ask only for your compassion. Consider the man before you, driven by fear, shame, and a secret that ate him alive. Punish the act, but remember the man. The jury departs to deliberate. 4 hours stretch into eternity. Outside, life in Fairmont Heights slows to a standstill. Neighbors whisper behind curtains, news vans patrol the streets, awaiting the verdict that will rip through this community. Inside the jury room, questions are dissected with surgical care. Was the act intentional or the result of an overheated mind? Did John plan the murder or did he simply snap? Each juror wrestles with the evidence. With empathy, with the unanswerable question, what would I do if the one I love betrayed me? At last, they return. The courtroom holds its breath as the four-person stand. Four-person, soft. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of voluntary manslaughter. A hush falls. John's shoulders slump. The veneer of his composure cracks. Emily exhales, a single shuddering breath that speaks of grief, relief, and the heavy burden of survivor's guilt. The judge pronounces sentence, 15 years, with eligibility for parole after 10. The gavel falls, echoing through the chamber. Outside, Mark's mother collapses into the arms of a geometric support group, tears of sorrow and something like closure mingling in her eyes. Reporters scramble for footage. The community processes the verdict. Justice served, but at a cost none can measure. In the eyes of a law, intent and context tug at each other like rival detectives. Yet the final truth is neither black nor white, but the shades of a broken humanity seeking redemption. Fairmont Heights returns to its quiet hum, but the echoes of this trial reverberate in every whispered conversation. For John, a life behind bars awaits. For Emily and Liam, the work of healing begins. And for everyone who watched, a stark reminder. Beneath the perfect facade, every story has its shadows, truths unbound that demand to be faced. Behind every crime lies a story of fractured humanity. John and Mark's bond began with laughter and shared dreams, weekend barbecues, late-night planning sessions, and a friendship that felt unbreakable. But fear crept in, suffocating their connection until it twisted into something dangerous. Emily's world unraveled the moment she discovered the secret she never imagined, the hidden messages that shattered her trust. And in one blood-stained instant, everything she knew changed forever. Secrets feed on shame. They grow until they demand release, sometimes with tragic consequences. Today, 7-year-old Liam sits on a bright plastic chair in a crowded prison visiting room, pressing his small hand against the thick glass that separates him from his father. John's eyes flicker with regret as he watches his son through the barrier, their breaths fogging the surface between them. Each visit is a reminder of choices made and lives forever altered. Emily, herself transformed by betrayal, now pours her energy into a local LGBTQ+ support organization. She leads workshops, offers a listening ear, and shares her story so that no one else will feel compelled to hide who they are or who they love. Her laughter returns, tempered by wisdom and compassion, as she helps others find their truth without fear. Mark's memory lives on through a scholarship fund established by his grieving family. Each year, young people receive grants to pursue education and live openly, honestly, without fear of judgment. In this way, Mark's legacy becomes one of courage rather than concealment. The camera drifts over Fairmont Heights, white picket fences, manicured lawns, and quiet streets that look unchanged. Yet beneath the surface, nothing will ever be the same. The neighborhood has learned that perfection is an illusion, that trust can be both a gift and a vulnerability. Thank you for watching this episode of The Untold Trace. If you're drawn to stories that explore the hidden currents beneath everyday life, be sure to subscribe and come back for more true crime documentaries right here on our channel.